chances are if you've ever had a crisis of confidence with your footsies in Street Fighter 4, you found yourself watching Juicebox Abel's Guide to Neutral. Now this is pretty much the Bible on neutral for that game. It tells you absolutely everything you could possibly need to know. But one of the key things he's trying to convey is that your anticipation of the opponent is what's fueling your reactions. Now this still applies in Guilty Gear, but it's a little bit more complex than that. And today me and C4 are going to be breaking that down for you. C4, what are you saying, man?
I'm good, man. All good. Holiday season's nearly finished, so yeah, back to Guilty Gear, back to the grind. God's gift.
Back to the grind, man. Dealing with that month-long hangover.
Yep.
Trying to get back to adult life, failing miserably, that sort of stuff. So the thing you have to remember when you're loading up Guilty Gear and you start playing neutral is the fact that you're not going to be reacting to everything. You're not going to be able to sit there like a Ryu, throw a fireball and then DP when they jump in. It's just not how this game works. There are so many options in any given situation that you're going to have to know how to deal with, or at least have an idea on how to deal with them. And me and Mace today, we're going to go through it and we're going to break down some of these concepts in a few examples, and hopefully it will give you a basis for playing neutral. Before we get too far into this video, I would like to preface it all with, we are not going to be discussing the basics. We're assuming a baseline level of understanding from Street Fighter that you're trying to apply to Guilty Gear. So today we won't be discussing using long pokes when they're far away or quick pokes when they're in your face. We'll be discussing the idea of neutral and how it fundamentally works and what's different about that compared to Street Fighter. So the first example we're going to look at is one that you will see very often in Street Fighter 5. If you're playing against a Guile player and he throws a Sonic Boom, you'll just sit there and you'll either block that Sonic Boom, try and match you with your own projectile, or you'll jump over it. This is something that Leo does all of the time with his own Sonic Booms. And luckily we've got a Leo player here. So Mace, when you throw a Sonic Boom, what are you looking for? What's the situation in your head?
Basically what you touch upon is literally, are you going to sit there and firm the boom, or you're going to try and get over it and get at me? Because a little bit different to Guile is the boom speeds. So he's got one that recovers fairly quickly, or he has one that goes further, hits more times, but obviously has more startup. I'm normally going to throw out the quicker one, but I can still get hit. If a character instant air dashes over, I can still get hit. So I'm kind of trying to space it where I can do something about your reaction to my boom, because that is the one part of the game where you can react. You can react to the booms to get over, but after that, it starts to become reads.
And that's the key thing. The bit where you throw that Sonic Boom, I can react to it. The bit where I instant air dash at you, you can react to that. But beyond this point, what happens there is completely unreactable. This is where we start reading each other and we start making guesses on what the opponent's going to do, covering as many options as possible. So you see me air dash at you, I don't want to sit and block that boom, so I don't want you to gain space and get in on me. What's going through your head then? What sort of options do you go to?
Most of the time, they're going to instant air dash over my boom and try and hit me. If I space it correctly, I can either flash kick, or if I don't think I've got enough charge, I can do a 6P, which is basically a button anti-air. That's normally what's going through my head. My first thought is they're going to jump over my boom and try and hit me.
Okay, so if I'm the Dizzy player and I go, he's not ready for this, he thinks I'm going to stay on the ground, I'm going to air dash at you and I'm going to hit a button to try and catch you moving in on me, and that will work. But if I then go, no, he's definitely going to try and anti-air me, he's put me in this exact situation, he's created a scenario where I am forced to do something. What if I realise that and I air dash at you, I can be thinking, right, he wants to anti-air me. And that means that Dizzy can do two things. She can air dash backwards to try and bait out a flash kick and then punish, or she can do what's called faultless defense, which means you spend a little bit of meter to be able to block in the air. And I can block your incoming attacks and then maybe punish when I'm land. So this is something that you're obviously going to be aware of. What do you do if you think I'm going to be trying to deal with your anti-air attacks? Where do you go to?
If I do see you take a sort of defensive option after going over my Sonic Boom, the first thing that goes in my head is I'm going to air throw it, because obviously universally you can't block throws, and throws are pretty strong in Guilty Gear. So as soon as I think that, okay, you've learnt your lesson and you can't just jump over my boom and hit me, I'm going to start going for air throws. There are other options, but for me, I feel that that's the most consistent thing to do when you know someone's taken to the sky and not pressing the button.
Yeah, and basically the game evolves from there. So if we look at this whole scenario, there are 2 bits of reaction, and then there's countless reads. There's countless different ways we can approach this situation. And what happens in your head as you're playing against Leo and you see the situation over and over again is you're going to build up a little base of knowledge. Like, so the Leo player, they know that this is an option, and you're going to be thinking to yourself, okay, how do I then deal with them knowing that sort of information about me? You're just making these reads, you're playing like this kind of back and forth. But the main thing you need to take away from this example is the fact that even though we both did that reaction, nothing beyond that was a reaction. It was all just a read on what the opponent was going to do. And that's why I say this game is incredibly read heavy, and it rewards the smarter player, is that you are literally getting yourself into a scenario, you're creating a situation, and your knowledge of that scenario, knowledge of the other player, is what's going to be important. But don't be intimidated by this. There are so many options, but so many of them beat other options. There's just a massive list of different things you can do, and they'll all be like 5 different things your opponent can do, or 6 different things your opponent can do. It's not as complex and terrifying as you think, because you'll just be gradually adding to that pool of knowledge, step by step, little by little. And if you're playing people of your own level, they'll be learning as well. They'll be learning these situations. So you're not going to be massively outclassed. You're not going to not understand what's happening. You're just going to be trying and just seeing what works.
Yeah, what's really good about Guilty Gear is, even though we're saying this, that reads a little bit or slightly more important than reactions, reactions are the points in the game that are basically prep for when you have to make a choice. So like we was given with the Leo example, you can react to my boom. When you react to my boom, that basically gives you, that's your prep time to be, okay, what's he going to do next? That's what reads give players in this game. So it's definitely not a case of, oh, I need to just be smarter and make better guesses. It's like reacting is definitely a key part to putting yourself in those situations where you can get big damage or bait something and whatnot.
Another great example of this whole idea is baked into the character Slayer. So Slayer has a thing that's called Dandy Step. Now Dandy Step, the closest comparison you could give is probably Dudley's backswing blow. And if you remember this from Street Fighter 4 and First Strike, he goes backwards massively, then swings forward and hits you. And it's always been kind of one of those weird moves that sounds really good in theory, but never pans out to being as good as it should be. But in Guilty Gear, Slayer has multiple options after the bit where he swings backwards. So he can go out, come back in and do nothing, or he can go out, come back in and hit you with a move that essentially on counter hit might actually win him the game.
Yeah.
Fight is so annoying. It's so annoying, dude.
That's real passion as well. That's
man.
He actually reads that.
And basically what Slayer's trying to do with this move is he's trying to make you whiff a button. But more importantly than that, he's giving you something to react to. And you'll react to that Dandy Step. You'll see him swing backwards. But knowing that he has like 5-6 options after he swings backwards means that you can no longer react beyond that point. You are going to see the swing backwards, and then you're going to sit there and you're going to go, right, what's he doing afterwards? And that's where the read comes in once again after the reaction.
Yeah, totally. It's very similar to obviously the Leo and Dizzy scenario we was talking about. The main difference is obviously in neutral with Guilty Gear, you're always going to want to do something. So you're going to want to put buttons out on screen. And depending on the Dandy Step that Slayer does will determine if your button works or doesn't work. And for the most part, it's not going to work. If he Dandy Steps when you press a button, your button's basically lost, for the most part. And like you're saying, the options he has after the Dandy Step are really only limited by the Slayer player, to be fair. Like, there is literally so many things he can do after that. Not going into like game mechanics, if we're just talking about the actual Dandy Step attack, he basically has a move that if it can hit you, you die, like you said. A move that's pretty safe on block if he doesn't want to take a risk. He's also got a follow-up where he can catch you if you try to jump away, or like we said earlier, he can do nothing and just go for a throw.
Yeah, and all of these options have different things they lose to and different things they beat. So this is just kind of reiterating this point. You're going to be reading the player. You're going to be like, right, last time Slayer did this, they're trying to catch me, count, like mashing a button and get a count hit. And once you know that, and you know the move's unsafe on block, that means you might go, right, I'm just going to sit here. And then you sit there and he throws you. It's just that sort of mind game, and that's going to happen over and over again, really quickly, really quick succession. As soon as you know the situation, you're going to be ready for it. And it's going to be like incredibly revealing when you see the Slayer player dandy step and do a button. Now it's not just like, okay, he flies back across the screen and he comes in and he's doing these attacks like you see when you first watch Gooey. Instead, it's going to be like, right, he did this for a reason. He thinks I'm going to press a button, or he thinks I'm going to block, or he's too scared to commit to something that's unsafe on block. And you're slowly going to be filling up your brain with player knowledge, and that is going to help inform all of these reads.
Definitely. Another slight thing to put on top of that is, even though it looks like the Slayer player might be just going, okay, I think this is going to work, so I'm going to do this. Another thing that the Slayer player is probably doing if he's at any sort of intermediate level is he's going to be looking at his resources. So he's going to be keeping an eye on how much tension he has. He might go for something that's risky then make it safe because he's got tension. Or he might think, oh, I'm going to go for a big attack because I can see that you haven't got a burst. So the risk reward is well in his favour.
Yep, and these are all things that are going to contribute towards the mind games. Meter management is a massive thing in Guilty Gear. It changes the dynamics of all these moves. It's different to Street Fighter, I guess closer to Street Fighter 4. In Street Fighter 4, if you had 2 bars in the older version, that meant that you could change anything into a safe attack for the most part. And that's the same in Guilty Gear. What that does is it means that as soon as they have 50% meter or tension, you're going to be going, right, I now know that getting punishes on block is not necessarily going to be that big of a deal. But then what are they going to do after they cancel it? And then once again, you're back in a read situation.
Yeah, like you're spot on. Regardless of if they can make the move safe, it's the option they pick after that. Normally, when you see someone make an unsafe move safe using tension, they're going to go for a mix-up because, well, I'm in at the moment. Why should I back away even though I've just made this safe? Like, I might as well try and open you up while I'm here.
Yeah, and it's normally plus on block when you cancel from moves when using tension. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of block stun and you're going to be dealing with someone right in your face, and that's a scary thing. So
yeah,
you're going to have to be mentally prepared for that sort of situation.
Totally.
And the last example we're going to look at here is actually more matchup specific. So the purpose of this example is more to get you thinking a little bit more fluidly about matchup. So the matchup we're looking at here is Pot versus Sin. This is a character that takes up a third of the screen. Sin has a move called Beat Driver, which takes up 2/3 of the screen and pretty much does everything by itself. Now, this is, obviously, if you look at it on a base level, this is pretty much impossible to get past for Potemkin. He doesn't have an air dash, so what is he going to do? And I think you've got a pretty good idea on some of the techniques you could use in this sort of matchup.
Yeah, like I've seen quite a few pots, and he's definitely one of those characters. At face value, he looks just like he needs to get in your face any means necessary to grab you. And in this matchup, like you said earlier, it's basically his worst nightmare. Like, Beat Driver is literally Pot's worst nightmare. There's nothing he can do. Even some of his tools to get around getting zoned at don't work. Like, he's got a move that flicks projectiles back, but Beat Driver's not a projectile, so he can't even use that in this matchup. So it's kind of one of those situations that don't happen in many games where it's your goal is to get in, but your objective is to be outside of Beat Driver range, and they really contradict each other. So it's challenging for Pot, but I feel that there is ways around it as long as you can make that correct read.
The main thing in this game is you can backdash and it's pretty much fully invulnerable, and Pot's backdash is fucking incredible. So it's absolutely madness. So if he backdashes through this Beat Driver, and the beat driver whiffs, that means that Sin can't cancel it into anything, because normally one of Sin's abilities is he can cancel special and special, but if it whiffs he can't cancel it. So the Pot now, he's gone from a situation where he is a massive disadvantage, but now he's made a move whiff. Now what could Pot do once he's made this move whiff?
There's a few things he can do. It will probably be space dependent and meter dependent, but at a very core fundamental level, it's basically he can do a low unblockable. So if you're on the ground, you're going to get hit, whether you FD or not, and it gives Pot a really strong knockdown where he's got enough time to go from full screen to in your face before you wake up. That's one of his best options for trying to close the gap, especially against someone like Sin, who for the most part is trying to stay on the ground, just because that's where beat driver's at its most powerful. Outside of slide head, he's got a few other options. One of them is doing an ICPM. That's basically an air move which sends him flying to the other side of the screen, which also gives you a knockdown on hit. A little bit unsafe if they block it though, so I mean, it is Pot. He's a grappler. He has to take risks every now and again. But to be fair, taking a risk and getting that close is probably better than struggling to get in the whole game. One other option is that he can do a move called Hammerfall. Hammerfall has armor on it. I believe it's one hit of armor. Beat driver at certain ranges only hits once, so he can definitely use this to make a sort of semi-safe approach, because after the Hammerfall, he does do an attack. So he can kind of anticipate a move and go, okay, I'm going to be moving forward and I'm going to have armor, and at the end of it, it's going to hit you and I'll get knocked down and I'll start my game. A lot of the battle is fought from the knowledge of the other character. Like we've been saying about Beat Driver being really strong, the Pot's scared of the Beat Driver area without Sin actually doing a Beat Driver. People are scared of Pot, not because of what he has done to him at close range, but what he can do at close range. Is that, oh, okay, I don't want to be here because this is what I'm scared of. I don't want to be right close to Slayer because of all the options he has to move backwards and whiff punish my buttons. I don't want to be jumping at Leo because I've been flash kicked so many times. So it feels like he controls that bit of the screen without actually doing the move that controls that bit of the screen.
Exactly, and this here is a brilliant example of the objective of your character might not be the objective of the matchup. So you might be going to yourself, Pot needs to get in, Sin needs to keep you away. But Pot can actually get out further and have more options than he would at mid-range. And a great example of this in Street Fighter 4 would actually be Yun versus Evil Ryu. Now, Evil Ryu, he has low forward, and if you play Street Fighter 4, you know all about low forward, because low forward leads into death. Basically, it's half health. If they've got meter, it's terrifying, and it's a really long, good poke. Yun, on the other hand, has a kind of strange neutral where he uses dive kicks and fake dive kicks. If Yun is inside of Evil Ryu's crouch forward range, his crouch medium kick, he then can't go to this mix-up. He can't then start throwing out dive kicks, because even if they're fake, Evil Ryu can DP from this range. So it cuts out this big chunk of his neutral. What Yun can do, exactly the same as Pot, is he can move backwards, he can backdash. And once he's backdashed and he's outside of this low forward range, suddenly his dive kicks open up. The Evil Ryu player probably knows this, so the Evil Ryu player might move in. And that opens up different options to Yun. Yun can then do his own crouch medium kick and cancel it into a lunge punch. And that stops him from moving back into that perfect range. So what you've got to understand in this game is that there will be ranges where the opponent wants to be and ranges that you want to be. But the fact is you won't be able to force it easily with some characters. With Pot, you can't force that range. With Sin, you can force that range. Sin can constantly go, do a little dash, a little micro dash, and then do beat driver. How is a Pot meant to get away from this? And that is doing things like backdash, it's doing hammerfall, using the armor when it's far away. And that's what you're going to realize. You're going to get into the game, you're going to have this game plan, but really your game plan should be adapting to how they are trying to play the matchup. You need to be adapting to each other constantly. And then you start to get into this deep, complex level of mind games in the neutral. And that is Guilty Gear at its whole. There's no 100% correct answer to any situation. It's all just pattern recognition. It's all figuring out where they want to be, what they want to do, why they want to do it. and then figure out how you're going to beat that. How are you going to play around it, or how are you going to force your game plan on them? And that's it, guys. It sounds weird, it sounds a bit bizarre, and you may be worried that your reactions aren't going to matter anymore, but they do. Like we've been saying, react, then read. That's going to be the whole flow of neutral for you. And if you're the sort of person that loves making reads constantly, but not having to bet the entire fucking farm on one jump, then this is going to be a game that you'll absolutely love playing neutral in.
Indeed.
Like, yeah, when you go to someone, you go like, I know you're a bit gutsy right now. You're gonna try and DP anti-aim me, even though it's not the right thing to do, and you block it. Your day is gonna be 10 times better. It's the best feeling. And that's it from us. Hopefully we'll be back next week, done with all the festivities, back to Guilty Gear, getting back to it, teaching you how to play this game. And thank you very much, C4.
Yes, thanks for having me again. Much appreciated.
Do you want to plug some of the things that you do?
Should I?
Yeah.
Is that 2017? Well, it will be by this goes out. Yeah, cool. So if you want to see some Guilty Gear matches from me, myself, C4IQ, and the TheoryFighter, you can go to Situational Damage on YouTube. See us battling out with the likes of Shawnee, CT, and other misnomers from the UK scene. Follow me on Twitter if you have nothing better to do. Sometimes I tweet stuff, sometimes I don't. And yeah, that's about it.
You sometimes tweet stuff. You mainly tweet stuff about Smite.
I didn't see. I was thinking about putting that in there, but then I thought this is not the time or the place. But yes, I play Smite. if you want to throw that in there, I play more Smite than I should. But I'm being converted back to Guilty Gear.
Yeah.
So yeah, all is well.
All is well. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
Layers.
それはダメなんじゃないか。先で月さん。